Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Is DEI a Bad Word? Uncomfortably Comfortable Conversations. I'm your host, Cheryl Lala, a retired professional golfer and consultant in the business world. On today's show, we have Drag Story Hour. Drag Story Hour and drag in general has been under scrutiny in the last year. And on today's episode, we have Jonathan Hamlet, he, him, communications coordinator of Drag Story Hour, as well as H. Harvey, she, they, executive director of Drag Story Hour. Let's learn more. Tell us what Drag Story Hour is and how it started.
Hi, yeah. Drag Story Hour is exactly like it sounds. It's drag kings and queens and other royal beings that read to kids and public schools and libraries and basically anywhere where you can get fabulous queer artists and kids together. That's pretty much it.
H, turning to you, what is the value of storytelling through drag? What do you hear when you go to an event from the audiences?
I hear a couple of things. From the kids, I mostly hear about how much fun they've just had and how much they like the stories and the costumes and if they get to sing along or dance along. From the adults, I often hear that experience of being moved to tears, which, to be transparent, is the experience I had the first time I heard a Drag Story Hour. I had the experience of thinking about, wow, what if I had had that experience, and remembering what it was like being a young queer kid when there's that absence of storytelling and that absence of safe and supportive spaces and what that does. And our programs manager often invokes the work of Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, talking about mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors, that effective stories become mirrors when we see ourselves. They become windows when we see others. They become sliding glass doors when we are transported by a story through the value of empathy. And I think one of the powerful aspects of Drag Story Hour's work is that we can provide those windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors for communities for whom that has not been status quo for all too long.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. I've never heard it said like that. So thank you for just giving us that. Such a beautiful way to think about this. Jonathan, DEI has become such a hot topic in its origins of the show as well, in terms of, is DEI a bad word? What do you think? Do you think DEI is a bad word?
With our work with Drag Story Hour, with these culture wars happening in air quotes, Drag Story Hour has become a scapegoat for homophobia and transphobia in the country and in the world. And I also think that's what's happening with DEI. I feel like it's our opposition's next target is to go after DEI in its entirety. And we've definitely seen that impact our work we do with corporate partners. I just read this article in Washington Post about how they're looking to change the name to EID for less focus on diversity. For some reason, switching up acronyms is, I don't know. So we're really in some interesting times right now. I guess we'll stay tuned and see what's next in store.
I haven't heard that. Wow. I'm going to have to look up that article and read a little bit more. It's such a debated topic like you're talking about. Hey, Johnny, any thoughts there as well in terms of what you've heard about DEI?
I agree with Jonathan that so much of the work of Drag Story Hour and the work of groups that are doing really important labor to advance the rights of historically marginalized communities is being scapegoated as really thinly veiled efforts of racism and homophobia and transphobia. I think some of it is grounded in misinformation and some of it's grounded in disinformation, and it's really important for us as citizens and community members to stay informed and to practice curiosity and compassion when we're in conversation hearing misinformation being circulated about.
There's a really big difference when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion within a corporate structure in that framework versus outside. Anything within a corporate structure is one topic of conversation when it comes to diversity and equity, and it's another when we're just talking about the community as a whole and how it's impacting life as it is.
Absolutely. As someone who does a lot of work in the corporate structure, many people are not having this conversation. They're not sure about some of the conversations that are happening or how to sit with that discomfort. I love, Jonathan, that you've put some context behind both. I think we should do some learning, some curiosity, as H said. That's the whole point and premise of even talking about things that may make us uncomfortable.
Real inclusion takes a lot of intent when it comes to corporate. The bottom line is my intention stops when the budget stops. That's why we're always trying to find our coalition and our horizontal expansion of other people that share a mission and vision. We can look into our own community for our strength when it comes to representation and holding each other up and accountable.
Absolutely. According to the Movement Advancement Project's Equality Map, Montana and Tennessee explicitly restrict drag performances, while 4 other states, North Dakota, Florida, Arkansas, and Texas, restrict adult performances that could be used to restrict drag. Age, in your opinion, why is drag being targeted and legislated against now?
Yeah, it's classic drag panic, to be honest. And for folks who might not be familiar with the history of drag panic, it is a moral panic that is rooted in misinformation and miseducation. And on the misinformation side of things, there are communities of people who genuinely do not know anything about drag performance. And that goes back to practicing curiosity with compassion, right? Like recognizing that, like any other form of creative expression, like theater or visual art, it can be tailored to be appropriate and specific to the cultural context and maturity of specific audiences. Drag Story Hour, in providing material for young people, provides drag story hours that are appropriate for young people. And on the disinformation side of things, we have to recognize that there is a cultural context to drag panic, that it is a drag panic that is rooted in homophobia and transphobia, but it's also rooted in racism. The reality is that the very first known self-identified drag queen was a Black formerly enslaved person named William Dorsey Swan, that the first House of Swan started in Maryland from this formerly enslaved Black person, that Black and brown people have been integral to advancing the platform of drag performance and creative expression, and that we live in a society where these attempts to further oppress these marginalized communities have been a part of a cultural endeavor for decades, centuries. In providing these safe spaces, we're not only disrupting the misinformation and disinformation, but we're protecting a community of people and advancing and platforming that community of people who've needed that protection for far too long.
Wow, I had no idea about that historical context. Thank you, H, for educating on that. That's incredible to hear. Jonathan, in the news, I've heard a lot about safety concerns when it comes to drag events. Last Pride Month, just outside of San Francisco, where I am here in Concord, there were far-right protesters that disrupted an event at a cafe. How has that disruption affected the organization and the impact on the community as well?
A lot of people hear about opposition and they think that we're scared or we're up against a lot, but we are very well organized. We've been at this for 10 years. Drag Story Hour is about to celebrate its 10-year anniversary next year that started in San Francisco. And our first wave of drag performers were Latin trans women in the Bay Area. We've seen opposition time and time again in and out of Drag Story Hour. Just being visibly queer in the world, you're going to get hate. But it's a tactic that ebbs and flows, and we have been developing a lot of safety measures and de-escalation practices. We're working on our Shields Up initiative, which is our safety volunteer marshal team, where we are working with different experts in event safety and event management and giving those resources out to our chapter network to make sure all of our events are safe and fun, and not just Story Hour. These are really great safety tools that can be used at any Pride and can follow our storytellers wherever they go and whatever space that they are performing their art at.
Amazing. Are there any events in store for Pride?
We have so many Prides. I feel every day is Pride with Story Hour, especially around the country. In the South, in Atlanta, Pride is in October. In San Francisco and in New York, it's in June. So you'll see our performers out and about. We have Lady Shug, New Mexico. You can vote for her for Grand Marshal of her local Pride. You'll see a lot of our storytellers being celebrated this season all over the world.
Great to hear that. What can people do all year round to uplift Drag Story Hour? What are ways to support the organization?
There are a few. The first one I'd love to start with is for everyone to find their local Drag Story Hour chapter, which is nice and easy. You can go to dragstoryour.org, find a list of active chapters, and reach out to them and see how you can be of most impact. There are going to be chapters that need volunteers, there are going to be chapters that need donations, there are going to need chapters that just need you to like and share their content, but the beauty of having a network like this is that each chapter is a little bit different and they're doing incredible, powerful, very local work. Their needs are going to be a little different from chapter to chapter. And then on the national level, there are ways to be very helpful as well. First is donations are always welcome, always appreciated, always impactful. Not only do they help shore up our operations and ensure that we're sustainable as an organization, but they provide us with the ability to be nimble and responsive to how our cultural moments shift, whether that's allocating more resources to safety, allocating more resources to supporting our storytellers all around the world, or supporting our chapters. Another way where people can be very helpful is volunteering. The history of Drag Story Hour is also one of mutual aid. Our volunteers have been incredible. They have provided help with safety initiatives, help with making sure that we have events. And then a special tidbit for folks in the business community: if you happen to find yourself an executive director or a CEO, if you are managing an employee resource group, one of the ways that you can be really impactful not only is supporting your employees who might be donating with matching gift programs, but booking an event directly. One of the best ways to disrupt misinformation is ensuring that people can see the power of the events that we offer, and ensuring that you can make that available and accessible within your community. And last but not least is helping and supporting us online. Sign up for the email list, get on the socials, like and share content.
So many incredible ways to support. Thank you for outlining those. Jonathan, what message, if any, would you like to give the parent community about the importance of coming to events and supporting organizations like Drag Story Hour?
To any parent or caregiver thinking about attending one of our programs, you definitely should. Having children experience otherness at a younger age is going to help them embrace the diversity of the world we live in. Like H was saying, disinformation starts very young, and it takes a lot to unlearn things. And we offer so many programs for so many different populations. You know, we have our signature story hours, which are for 3 to 8-year-olds and public schools and libraries, but we work with middle schools and we do book clubs. We visit high schools and do GSA visits or drama club visits. We go into universities and do talks and roundtables, and then we engage with corporate and do those ERG fun pride events. We work with our elders, been going to nursing home, assisted living. Our New York City chapter has trained storytellers that work with kids with autism or other disabilities, which we are trying to roll out on a national level with those trainings, and also work with medically complex individuals as well. Bilingual, multilingual story hours. We have Indigenous drag story hour. So whatever you are out there, there is a story hour program for you, and we can't wait to read to you.
That's amazing. I had no idea about the diversity of programming. Thank you for outlining that. My interest in Drag Story Hour came from my children, actually. There was a Drag Story Hour that went to their school, and they were just so excited about the program, couldn't stop talking about it, and had to seek out other ways to see other Drag Story Hours. So I think this is a fabulous program. I had no idea about the diversity of programs that you all offer, all the way from younger child to university or elder. Thank you both for the work that you are doing. Before we close, I wanted to ask either one of you, what are some strategies, maybe 3 strategies that people can do to come together and support one another instead of being polarized or harshly opposed to some of the concepts that they might not know about?
I think listening is really important, and remembering that allyship is a two-way street. It is a conversation, it's a dialogue, and if you ever want to help someone, just asking them what they need help with. I mean, mutual aid is always great, but asking, do they need resources? Maybe something professionally that you do, or maybe a particular printer, a 3D printer, or a camera, or really cool equipment that you could offer to your local queer bookstore for their event. Really asking what people's needs and how you can help out. And kind of knowing their strategy, helping with us. You may be fired up and have a lot of passion for something that you believe in, and you really want to get with, combat with the opposition. But with Story Hour, we really want to make sure that we de-escalate, even if we are there to support and defend our rights and protect our programs. So just knowing where you stand and kind of what's going to be most helpful just by asking and listening.
I love that. Listening is so important, and I think dovetails really well with leading with curiosity that's underscored with compassion. I think a lot of times we stop at the quick answer. I know, I am someone who's quick to do that. I want to know something, I Google it really quickly, find the first answer, I'm like, great, I'm empowered with information. And that is not always true. Sometimes in our culture where things get polarized, we have to take the extra step of checking where our information is coming from, and if there is an intent behind how that information is being framed. There's a lot of misinformation out there about Drag Story Hour. There's a lot of misinformation out there about a number of things. And if we truly want to practice curiosity ensuring that we're getting that information from a reliable source and that we're using that information towards compassionate ends is going to go really, really far.
I love that. It's been a huge pleasure to talk with you both. Where can folks stay in touch with you and learn more about your work?
Visit us at our website at dragstoryhour.org. We're on all the major social media channels, really active on TikTok and Instagram, but we're also around on X and Facebook. So check us out. And if you want to see a story hour, you can always go on YouTube and find our official page, as well as one in person.
Thank you both. This has been such a pleasure. Excited to go to the website and check you all out on your digital channels as well. Thank you everyone to joining us today on Is DEI a Bad Word? We hope you're leaving this conversation with tangible steps to continue fostering an inclusive community for all. Bye everyone.